against cancer. And that is diet, actually. I'm going to name a couple other things with lifestyle and tell you how they work, but we're going to discuss diet and your best defense for cancer. I'm Dr. Natalie Gonzalez. I'm a retired surgeon. I practice integrative and functional medicine. Integrative means that I use both complementary or alternative means and conventional medicine, and I use the best of both to optimize your health. Functional means that I look for the root cause. I look for the underlying reason that you have something going on, and that's where we start with dealing with it. So today I'm going to talk about food, and I'm going to come back to it in just a second. When it comes to cancer cells, our body has multiple ways that it controls cancer cells. Everybody has them. Sometimes we might have as many as 10 at one time circulating throughout our body. And, you know, cancer cells have the ability to change into a cancer cell, and then your body has the ability to stop that cell from growing. So this happens all the time in everybody. And when your immune system is working really well, that process is such that any type of cancer cell growth may remain small for long, long periods of time and may never grow because your body's ability to keep it in check is really working well. And so the way your body does that is through multiple different mechanisms, but one is sleep. When you sleep, your immune system becomes more active and you produce natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are those cells that your body uses to stop cancers. That's exactly what they're for, is to detect an abnormal cell growth and stop it from growing. And your immune system is beautifully designed to do that. And natural killer cells are one of the ways it does that. And there are lots of different things you can do to produce your own natural killer cells that work far better than any drug we have. Sleep is one to help optimize those. You'll notice when you don't sleep, you tend to get more viral infections, maybe a cold sore or a herpes simplex infection, or maybe a HPV virus you fight, or maybe mono or Epstein-Barr. Those kinds of things are going to get out of control when your natural killer cells and your lymphocytes, which are these natural killer cells are part of lymphocytes. When your lymphocytes are not working well, and the way you get them working well, one of the first ways would be to make sure you're getting some deep, restful, restorative sleep. The next one would be, I would say, stress. So stress is really important. I'm sure all know people who have had, maybe they developed a cancer after a period of stress. Maybe they had family stress or job-related stress or just financial stress. And those people, after several years of that, might have developed a cancer. That's really important to know, because when cancer develops, often those natural killer cells are low, and stress is one of the things that lowers the natural killer cells. And relaxation or meditation is actually one of those things that elevates your number of natural killer cells. And so, you know, just being aware that you have the control to do that is really critical to know, I think. I also think that when it comes to just lifestyle habits, one of the main ones that we use and that I see that works is movement. So exercise. And exercise, if you are doing maybe a short burst, 10 to 15 minutes, 3 times a day, every time you do that burst of exercise, you are giving your body a burst of natural killer cells. And so for people who are fighting a cancer or trying to control it or prevent it from recurring, those are really important parts of your day to do those short, quick intervals of a natural burst of energy or exercise to help your body give yourself that boost. And, you know, HIIT training is one of those things that does that. So HIIT means high intensity interval training. And when we do HIIT training, it's also producing that natural burst of natural killer cells. They're also called NK cells. So those three things, we see that really often. There were some studies done years ago in young girls who throughout their lifetime were really physically and athletically active. And what we noticed in that group of young women was that they developed fewer breast cancers. But in general, you can tell why, because when you are exercising, you're producing a really nice supply of natural killer cells. So I want to go to food. When it comes to food, let's talk about fasting first. And that's kind of odd because we're talking about food. But what's interesting about cancer cells is that they don't adapt well. And they need a lot of energy and a lot of food and a lot of sugar. And it's usually those things you love to eat that they love to eat too. And when it comes to cancer cells, when you go on an extended fast, your normal body cells can adjust to that really easily. We are meant to adjust to periods in which there is a lack of food. Our body's developed that way. And so our normal cells can handle that without a problem. Our cancer cells, on the other hand, cannot. They do not adapt to the supply lines being cut off. So the supply lines of their energy and their glucose and everything they need, their blood supply, all of that. When you start cutting off the supply lines, they do not do well, and it stresses them far more than it stresses your normal cells. What we have found with the research is that when you fast for 48 hours before and maybe 24 hours afterwards, so a total of 72 hours around the time of a cancer treatment like radiation or chemotherapy, if you fast around those time periods, you will actually get a better result from your chemotherapy and radiation than you would have without the fasting, and you will have fewer side effects. So fewer nausea, fewer episodes of nausea and vomiting, less fatigue, those really big side effects that people get. You will have less of those with fasting, and you will have a much better outcome, meaning it will control that cancer much better than it might have if you didn't do that. So to be thinking of that, the research is really clear on that. And then if you are just trying to control up cancer, it's a great way to control, especially solid tumors, is what we're finding, is that when you really stress those cancer cells with a fast, not just a long time between breakfast and dinner. That's not the kind of fast I'm talking about. I'm talking about an extended fast, including water, including your medications if you're on any, but to not be taking in calories for food for either you or your cancer. And I would say start with 16 to 18 hours a day in which you are putting your food in a very short interval, maybe 4 hours of eating, but the rest of your time you're fasting, and you will stress those cancers and you will get much better outcomes with your treatment, whatever treatment you're on. And the extended water fast, anything beyond 72 hours probably needs to be done with a healthcare provider being, supervising it. There are cases of cancers shrinking or going away or being controlled by fasting that way. But there's also another case I can think of an extended fast of like 45 days or so, and somebody actually got extremely ill and ended up in the intensive care unit with encephalopathy because he was missing the B vitamins and minerals and things that you need for brain function. So, it needs to be a supervised kind of fast if it's an extended water fast. So food. I want to talk about animal and plant foods. This is something that we are skirting the issue on in the United States. We know in the research that the animal products that we're eating are causing heart disease, blood vessel disease, which is part of heart disease, and cancers. And we have the highest rate of it in the world. You know, in the United States, we have the highest rate of both of those things. That's what the majority of our population dies from. So we know when it comes to cancer, though, that methionine, which is an amino acid that is very high in animal and proteins, and very low in plant proteins, is associated with a much higher growth rate of cancer and a much greater tendency for cancers to spread. So that's metastasis. So we know that methionine in animal proteins helps cancers to spread and helps them grow faster. We also know that when we eat meat and animal proteins and fats, that we get higher levels of what we call IL-1. Interleukin-1 in your body is an inflammatory cytokine. You don't have to know all of that. The immune system is extremely complex, but this particular inflammatory cytokine also is very high in people who eat animal products, and it makes cancers grow. And thirdly, when it comes to animal products especially, but we can do this with our plant products also, is when we cook and we heat things and we change the chemical structure and end up with charred food or anything that's got that brown, lovely color and flavor, those things actually are cancer-causing chemicals. They are carcinogens. And we have another name for them, they're called AGEs, but they are cancer-causing chemicals. And I really think that when we're trying to prevent or control or, just keep a cancer under control or trying to reverse it, especially with chemotherapy and radiation or other medications, immunotherapy, we don't want to be feeding the flames of this cancer. We don't want to be, feeding it. We just don't want to feed it and stoke it up to be a faster growing, more aggressive cancer. So keep those in mind. When it comes to plants, interesting thing is that we probably have in our plants a known number of phytonutrients that's greater than 4,000 different nutrients. And we only have a small percentage of those that we even know what they do individually. We don't even have a clue what they do together. And when it comes to plant nutrients, one of the most important ones that I wanted to talk about is phytates. Phytates, Phytates, are found in all plants, but very high in nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, and whole grains. And those phytates can do about 8 different things to stop a cancer. At least 8 different things to stop a cancer. And some of those things we can imitate with certain drugs that might do one of those things, or maybe 2 of them, and we might use maybe 2 of the drugs, but we cannot imitate what those phytates do in our body. Phytates, yes, in the past, we thought, oh, they must be bad because they can leach zinc and iron from your body. So these people who are eating those had very low zinc and iron. And what we have found is that if they have a well-balanced diet, particularly a diet that includes onions and garlic, which helps you absorb those 2 things. Citrus is another one that helps you absorb the iron. When you use those things in your diet with your other grains, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, then you're not going to run the risk of being low in zinc and iron. So keep that in mind. One of the things that the phytates can do that we have no drug that can do this is that it can actually take a tumor cell that's changed from normal, turned into a cancer cell, growing out of control. It can take that tumor line and it can help it change back to a normal cell. We have nothing in medicine that does that. So on that note, I'll leave you You can ask any questions on the site. We'll be looking for questions or comments. And I will be back here every day at 11 o'clock until I get this right. And go out there and have a great day, everybody. Oh. So one of the parts I didn't get right was, I forgot to tell you, if this seemed to help you, please like or share it with somebody. If you share it with a family or friend, that's great. We all know somebody who's had cancer or is dealing with it or trying to prevent its recurrence. But if you don't have somebody that you know like that, please like it so that YouTube can share it with somebody that it would be really helpful for. Okay, now I can end the video. We'll see you back next time at 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time. Thanks.